1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Keep going.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Keep going.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And again, sorry, Chris.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It's the Monday show. We are live a little bit later than usual, than normally planned. But the important thing is that we are here. I am your host, Ian Croll, and joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we have Chris Beesley. Chris, how are things? All good?
Well, we couldn't ignore this one, could we, Ian? No. So, yeah, I'm sure. No goals to talk about, unfortunately, but still plenty on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Still plenty on the agenda. Just to let everyone know, let the viewers and the listeners know that our colleague Joe Thomas was scheduled to join us in the studio today, but due to unforeseen circumstances and through no fault of his own, by the way, that he has not been able to join us. And it's probably one of the reasons why we are later than usual. Usually we kick off around 11:30, 12:15, but we are live and it's roughly around 23 minutes past 3. So you'll just have to contend with me and Chris for this one. But, still all good. Anyway, today's agenda, we have obviously reaction, analysis and debate following Everton's 0-0 draw with Brentford as we try to make sense of where Everton currently are. As usual, give this video a thumbs up, drop us a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. And as mentioned, we are live, so please get your questions in, get your comments in. Plenty already on the stream. Look forward to reading those out. Final plug before we get straight into it. He's not on the podcast today, but we'll give his book a plug anyway. Gav Buckland's new book, titled The End, comes out this week, and you can pre-order a copy by heading to the link in the description of this YouTube video, as well as Apple or Spotify podcast audio uploads. Okay, let's get down to it then, Chris. Another disappointing home result for Everton, against the side with 10 men for the majority of the game. How do you assess it?
Yeah, I remember start of October, you and I were both here diligently coming in on a Sunday to do one of our Goodison Park, my homes with Anders Limpar, and talking afterwards to Anders about the games ahead, and it was that block of 5 games, and Anders was very chipper about it. He thought that, and then I think rightly so. And if you look at all those games individually, they were all winnable. But at the end of that, Everton got off to the best possible start. First away win in 10 months at Ipswich Town, 2-0 convincing, and hopefully we all thought would set the agenda for this block of games, and that ended up being the only one that they won. So they were going into this game against Brentford anyway, knowing it's going to be a really important game anyway, I suppose as much as you can get a sort of must win at this time of the season in terms of certainly avoiding the heat of that tough ahead of the tough run in December. They've obviously not done that now, but also most importantly really was the fact that they had over half the game against 10 men. I mean, I think as soon as the visitors were reduced to 10 men after that VAR decision, everyone's thinking this is a huge half for Everton. The second half's a huge half for Sean Dyche, and unfortunately they didn't deliver, and they didn't really look like delivering either. It's not like they were knocking on the door and Brentford were clinging on. It was really far too comfortable for the visitors, I thought, and obviously we're going to have all the aftermath that comes with that now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there the chances and stuff like that. I think if I've done my research right, we had 27 opportunities at goal. But for me, coming away from that game, I felt Brentford probably had the more clear-cut, better chances. We never really got into a position where you thought this is going to be a goal. I know we had a couple, like say, 27. I'd love to know what those 27 are, but we definitely had a couple of, close opportunities. Beto header, I know Calvert-Lewin had a shot, etc. But like I say, Brentford looked the most likely to score, and that is the most worrying thing. But the fact that they had 10 men as well. Yeah,
it's really damning. Really, I thought Everton started well on the front.
I'll agree with that. Yeah,
on the front foot, they looked decent, and as Sean Dyche said afterwards, they probably actually played better against 11 men than they did against 10. Yeah, it was damning that, like you say, on the counter attack, Brentford, a couple of big chances, one in each half there. Pickford, a couple of good saves again. And yeah, Everton's was mostly like long distance. Idrissa Gueye, I mean, he scored the winner in the corresponding fixture last season, which obviously a huge result because completed 3 wins in a week, and it actually confirmed Everton's Premier League status. But because of that, he seemed to really sort of fancy his chances. And he was shooting from everywhere at long distance. And I mean, that was one of the few that actually Flecken actually had to save, just sort of tipped it over the bar. Wasn't too difficult for him. Yeah, I don't remember the keeper having to fling himself around too much. That was the problem. They were long distance efforts. They were off target, a lot of them. Never really, sort of Brentford happy to keep Everton sort of at arm's length, really get everyone behind the ball as you would do, 10 men away from home. I mean, you've got to remember as well, this was their first away point all season. It's like something else, you obviously make it even more damning. They'd lost every game on the road, obviously got a great home record this season, but on the travels they've really struggled. And yeah, reduced to 10 men, they were absolutely made up as they would be. They lost 1-0 to Everton the last couple of seasons, and getting that share of the spoils, their first point on the road. Yeah, it was really disappointing that Everton didn't have sort of like the intelligence or the tactics to break them down and really sort of test them a lot more than they did do.
Let me just go through some comments and questions already, because we're getting a lot through and I don't want to miss any out. So there's a lot of, unhappiness towards Sean Dyche. So Alex Jones, sick of him disrespecting our club and the fans, get him out now. What else? Ian the Blue, 1878, get this clown out of our club before he totally destroys it. I mean, Chris, these are the sorts of comments that are coming through now. Fans, I'm not saying it's all the fans, because you still see, a couple of fans backing on Twitter, and it's extremely hard to judge, where certain fans' headspaces are. One thing is certain now, that the fans were certainly unhappy after the game. The boos rang around Goodison Park after it. It wasn't a defeat, but it didn't even feel like we gave enough to even try and win that game. So the fans, clearly not happy. Are the boos justified for you for start?
I think that those boos would be justified. I think Sean Dyche said himself afterwards that he's never going to question the fans in terms of the support. Of course, you're going to be frustrated. I mean, in any sort of circumstances, for Everton to be at home against a team who had 10 men for over half the game and not win the game, that's going to be disappointing. That's going it's going to be understandable that you're going to be booed at the end. But when you're playing a team who hasn't picked up a point all season away from home as well, really struggled on their travels. The fact that, like I said, they weren't knocking on the door. It's not like you say, they were unfortunate. Really, had a few cleared off the line or whatever. It just wasn't their day. It wasn't that at all. They just weren't anywhere near the sort of levels that they should have been. And in terms of the manager, this has been going on ever since Southampton. I mean, we've discussed at length with Joe, Gav, a lot of us all, the reasons why don't think there's going to be any decision at the moment. You know, we're in this state of limbo with the club in terms of the freaking group of a deal in place, which they've had since September. Their hope is that that will be completed by mid-December. Spoke a couple of weeks ago to somebody, a representative of theirs, and they didn't think there was any obstacles, any hurdles at the moment. Everything was progressing as it should be, but they weren't going to be in a position to brief until that was completed, and everything was still on track for mid-December. So that's when they're going to be in actually a position to sort of make a decision. Like we said, in theory, you could change the manager at any given moment. You know, Moshiri could press the button, anyone could do anything. But in terms of realistically, I don't see anything happening on that score until the Friedkins are in place. It's not a position where it's really frustrating at the moment, and I think we all agree now that Everton don't have as many points as they should have. Even Sean Dyche said that himself. You know, he admitted that they're not winning enough matches at the moment, and he takes full responsibility for that. But in terms of an actual change, I don't see how that happens until the takeover is completed. Whatever you think about Sean Dyche.
Let's go back to the comments then. Let's Be Avenue. He's had the vote of confidence, so that's a start at least. I mean, we've obviously had reports from Sky Sports News and Alan Myers this morning that he's had a bit of a vote of confidence. We'll come on to that because there is a comment, not really defending Dyche, but I'll just read it out anyway. So JDEFC says, "My fear is if we sack Dyche, then who do we get in?" Which obviously kind of touched upon a little bit with the new owners and stuff like that. "I'm still scarred by just how bad these players were under the last manager. At least Dyche has us solid and fit. Why not bring in an attacking coach?"
I understand.
Under Dyche, I assume.
Yeah, I understand what I know. I remember up at Newcastle United that Kevin Keegan brought in a defensive coach and Mark Lawrence. I don't know. I mean, it's a fair enough shouting, but I don't see how that one.
It's not something that you'd expect Sean Dyche to do. Either like admit defeat in a way if he was going to do that, maybe.
I suppose Keegan was sort of big enough to do it, but no, it's not. It's not one I envisage happening under the current regime. It's interesting what he said then, because I think that's the problem for all those. I think we all agree now that Everton don't have as many points as what we would expect. The manager said that himself, and the big fear for everyone is now as we look at that fixture list for December, and it looks very tough on paper. Perhaps things won't be as bad as we hoped, in the way that this run hasn't been as good as we hoped. But given how poor the football has been and how frustrating the results have been, it's justifiable that people are concerned. But if you're talking about a mid-season change again, going to a ninth manager in 8 years now, obviously Leicester City just pressed the button after a dozen games on their boss. I mean, it's like you said, like the contributor said there. Who do you actually turn to mid-season? It could be a totally different scenario come next summer. I think nobody wants to make a change mid-season in Goodison Park's last season. So it gets to the point of, is Everton's Premier League status on the line? It's not at the moment, but given those games on the horizon, the fear is that maybe it could be come the turn of the year. So it's a big time for Sean Dyche, whatever the future holds for him long term, and there's certainly plenty of question marks over that. Just I think just short term as well. I know this is a real big set of fixtures coming up for him.
Tom Warbrick says, "Can we get him gone now, please? He's given up, and soon will most of the fans." It's an interesting one, that, because without adding too many conspiracy theories, and I'm not suggesting this is the case, by the way, but I have heard a lot of people suggesting that Dyche, for all the good that he's done over the past 2 seasons, he probably thinks in his own head that he will get a job no problem after leaving Everton, even if this season turns out to be really bad, because that's just the way the Premier League works. He more than likely going to leave by mutual consent if he's not obviously sacked mid-season. But is he? Do you think he maybe just in reference to that question? I'm not saying he's given up. But do you think he's just at a point now where he's just thinking, well, I just want to get over this season and then finish my contract? if a job offer comes in, I know I'll be able to get it.
Well, what I talked about did there in the Everton talking point this morning, so if people want to have a look at that one, and it's an interesting one because actually got a point from a contributor who actually admitted they were a big Dyche fan, and they think, unlike a lot of the managers Everton have had, those 8 managers in 8 years, that he does at least have a distinct style and way of playing, no matter what you actually think of that. But his concern was that for all the good that he's done and worked in trying circumstances, and I've obviously been a big defender of him last season, he hadn't kicked on this season in terms of the way the team are playing and in terms of trying to adopt that more expansive style. I think after having their fingers burnt, those back-to-back 3-2 defeats, Bournemouth, Villa, when they've been 2-0 up in them both, they've kind of gone back into their shells, and it just hasn't kicked on in that respect to me. Michael Ball's column's coming up as well, and as you can expect with Michael, pulls no punches there in terms of the playing style and what he thinks about it. But it's actually a huge, and I go back to the start of the season, not just now, this is a huge opportunity for Sean Dyche in a way that Sam Allardyce was unable to take his opportunity at Everton. I mean, he came in supposed fighting relegation fires, and they were in top half the end of the first week, so he had an opportunity to sort of take things on, sort of take the handbrake off and play that more expansive football, and he was either unable or unwilling to do that. So despite finishing 8th and like a very comfortable position, obviously he went out the door after just 6 months. Now, like you say, Sean Dyche probably will get another job in football after Everton, but he's not going to get as big a club as Everton. He's not going to get as prestigious club as Everton, and this is a huge opportunity for him. He said when he was asked, I think it was the first press conference he did after the Friedkin deal was announced, would he actually like to be there next season, sign a new contract to be the man to lead Everton into the new stadium? And he said, well, of course, I don't want to be the one who sort of does all the tough times and then he's sort of shown the door. But at the moment, he needs to be showing a lot more in terms of both the results and the performances, and unfortunately Everton are failing in both those factors at the moment.
It's interesting that you said you don't believe the team have kicked on from last season's strong finish. Because let's face it, even in the middle of that, there was a 13-game winless record, which was extremely difficult and frustrating period. Is it? I mean, I believe that we haven't only just not kicked on, we've gone backwards as well. Would you agree with that?
Well, certainly in terms of the results right now and the style of football, in terms of they've got we all thought, given the circumstances, it was a decent summer window. They operated well in tough circumstances in terms of the players that they were able to bring in, and also crucially the players were able to retain, Jared Branthwaite and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And in terms of going backwards, it's difficult, like you say, because last season it was so up and down. It was boom and bust, like you say, not a single win between Christmas and Easter. So maybe not going backwards compared to that. I mean, we've got to still remember, although like he did acknowledge it means nothing, it is only one defeat in the last 8 games. So there seems to be a bit of a difference between the way external factors, the way people outside view Everton, and ultimately the people who are the most important, which are the Evertonians who see all the games and live and breathe it. So in terms of going backwards, I don't know, because I said last season was so up and down. I mean, if you take away the points deductions, obviously we've gotten on about this a lot of times, they would have been level on points with Brighton in 11. So in that respect, they've gone backwards right now. But they certainly I think we can all agree they haven't actually kicked on, and that's the main crux of things really. It's both in terms of the style of play, but you can kind of live with that if the results are there. But as Dyche himself admits, the results haven't been there. They're not winning enough matches.
The form then that you mentioned, the 1 win and 8, I think. Ashley Young came out, didn't he, and made a big deal about that in his post-match comments and his quotes and stuff like that. But Everton have only lost 1 in 8 games. But for me, form is obviously only temporary. It's the table that you need to look at, and we're sat perilously. Really, teams around us have all won since we last won.
Yeah,
we've only won 2 in how many is it now?
12.
12. okay, we've had a fair few draws. We had a terrible start. There was a question here about whether he's lost the players. You think someone, Gerard Monaghan, saying he's lost the dressing room. The fans don't want him. It's clear he doesn't want to be here. Would you agree with that? But when you've got players like Ashley Young coming out, the kind of defending Dyche, I guess, and the form and stuff like that, do you think he's lost the players?
People, they said that after Chelsea, so no, I wouldn't agree with that sentiment. I mean, people say that a lot of the time. They said that about David Moyes after the 5-1 at Man City, and he went on to have the club's highest Premier League finish the following year. So people can often say that when times are tough, and I don't think there's any sort of indication that he's lost the players. I think what he would be more concerned about is that other sentiment in terms of the supporter base, and I think everybody nobody was thinking, that this is going to be some glorious season for Everton, or that they were going to be in the top half of the table or anything like that. Everyone's realistic, and Dyche, like all the other Everton managers of recent times, has been in very sort of difficult financial circumstances in terms of the net spend's very small compared to what it obviously was. The reason why they got them into trouble. So we're all realistic going into this, but. Given those signs that we've mentioned and the way they have operated and the way they finished last season and did well in such trying circumstances with the 2 points deductions, the hope was without all of that, with this genuinely being, a once-in-a-lifetime season, Goodison's historic final season, that we'd actually be able to enjoy it. And it's not much enjoyment right now. It's the football. The results, it is really testing for the supporters right now, and they just want something to cling on to in terms of a bit of hope. And you've got a player like Iliman and Dice, as special as he is, just a few more players to be. You can't just replicate that, but at least just have that sort of attitude about them and the way they go about playing the game.
Jack says 27 shots. My eyes tell me different. Players are fighting for the gaffer. I mean, I think that's what he's meant to have said. To the game then.
Yeah.
Sean Dyche kind of went against the evidence, I suppose, if that's what you want to call it, for large parts of the game on Saturday. He swapped Ndiaye into the middle with McNeil kind of interchanging, really going to the left. He even ended up on the right towards the end of the game, didn't he? And I'll be honest with you, I did think that was rather refreshing. I called for that, before the game. What did you think, first of all, of Ndiaye down the middle? Did it work? I mean, clearly not, because we didn't make the most of it, but he's only probably had 45 minutes. I mean, I think he probably swapped a little bit, didn't he, in the first half as well. So it's probably hard to judge on the first game that he's done that. Yeah,
is that going to be the end of the experiment now? Never again, soldier soul kind of thing.
Just to interrupt again. Yeah. Go on, I'll let you answer that and then I'll come on. Yeah. Go on.
I don't know if it could be seen as a qualified success. I thought Ndiaye sort of did well wherever he played. It was an interesting one in terms of my player ratings. As always, everyone's going to pick the bones out of my player ratings, but I actually thought Ndiaye played actually very, very well, certainly in moments. And that was the thing. I thought nobody was really poor for Everton on Saturday individually. I think everyone kind of did their job to a certain level, but the problem was as a cohesive unit, as in terms of the tactics, they were nowhere near good enough. So whereas nobody had a howler or anything like that, everyone was kind of doing okay. Everyone, for me, was.
Does that not just come down to the manager then?
Well, then that's the tactics that they employ. Well, also the way the players. Yeah, but it does in terms of the tactical setup of the team. But I thought Ndiaye sort of wherever he was on the pitch, he was. The thing I like about him as well, not only does he make you gasp, and you sort of I think there was that moment when he went through in the first half, and I was like, oh, when it was that close control, but. He puts a shift in as well. He's not just a show pony. A lot of players like that, and you think, well, they won't track back, they won't defend. He really puts a shift in at both ends of the pitch. Maybe it's an argument. Should he be having to do that? Maybe he should be staying forward. But the problem was, I think, second half is because they made those changes, and there didn't seem to be any sort of pattern of play or system, and that was the thing that it became easy for Brentford because Everton were trying all kinds of things, but without any sort of cohesive sort of strategy, it would seem, and that's why Dyche and the team are feeling the heat now, because it just wasn't enough against a team who'd struggled all season away from home, as I've said, and we're down to 10 men. They weren't asking enough questions.
Just staying with that then, I was kind of accused on Twitter of having my cake and eating it, because I didn't really necessarily call for Ndai to be in the middle, and to swap with McNeil. I don't even think that's where the main problem lies. I think it's with the fullbacks, which we can come on to. But does it not smack for you, Chris, of a manager 48 hours earlier suggesting or saying that there was no evidence of it that Ndai could play as the number 10? 48 hours later, he's playing as the number 10. Is that not a bit of desperation? We talked about Sean Dyche and his mind games with the fans. I just think it's all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah, it's certainly. He's like say saying one thing on the Thursday and then come Saturday. I mean, I suppose there was the sending off. I mean, you had to do something, didn't they, in terms of the sending off? They try and unlock the door, as it were, and try something a bit different. So maybe he'd say, "Oh well, I wasn't expecting us to go down 10 men." But it's just interesting when he said that in the first place, because if you look at his career stats, I did a piece earlier in the week when Ndai came back from international duty for Senegal, and he played one game as a number 10 for them, and he played the other game on the right wing. And if you look at his career stats, and I've been looking on transfer marks, because they, to be fair, have got a great side in terms of they break everything down to which position he's played in every game of his career. And most of his career hasn't been on the left wing at all. It's mostly been down the middle. So for Dyche to say there's no suggestion that he could, I don't know what they've been watching him in the past then. I mean, rightly or wrongly, for better or for worse, he has been playing down the middle actually for the bulk of his career, and he spent the lesser part of that on the left. I know he spent most of his time since he came to Everton on the left wing, so I'm not too sure what he's making of that one. Or like you say, is he sort of a reverse psychology, or is he trying to be clever and say that? I think if I say that, no one's going to think I'll play him there, and then I will do. I don't know.
I mean, just staying with that one as well, there seems to be a little bit of a maybe disagreement or friction between Dyche and maybe, this is purely speculation, but his backroom staff, his director of football, who maybe he's brought him in Dyche to play as the number 10, because Dyche said himself, there's people who are telling me that he needs to be playing as the number 10. Who are these people that he needs to be playing as the number 10? It's got to be his coaching staff. It's got to be his director of football. He can't be just listening to the fans. not that I don't disagree with anything the fans say, but if he's taking advice from the fans, then we'll probably be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, but I don't know. In terms of, they were calling for Beto, weren't they, on Saturday, and he's one that maybe that the manager thinks needs to be doing more, and obviously they paid a lot of money for him, Kevin Farwell, to get him out of Udinese. I don't know. Is he listening to the fans or not? I mean, obviously they're the barometer, and you don't need the fans necessarily picking the team for you, but you've got to understand what I think that's been sort of even the biggest Dyche backer would have to concede that, in terms of they've never got the most out of Goodison in terms of getting the fans on side, and that's a big thing, isn't it, in terms of, like we say, going to the game again this season, sort of that drudgery, that the atmosphere hasn't always been there, because the stuff, what's happening on the pitch hasn't been there. So yeah, you can't just have the fans picking the team for you, but you can't just ignore them either.
No, you definitely can't ignore them. But if he's basing his team selection on that, then, but like I said, do feel, again, it's purely speculation that we obviously don't know. It does seem that there's a bit of a conflict in terms of what certain players should be doing on the pitch in terms of role, position, etc.
Maybe it's always going to be a factor if you've got a director of football. That was the thing back in the day. David Moyes, he was the one who brought them in, wasn't he? He was the one who would live or die by it. But now you've got the director of football above you. I mean, it's always going to be the way. I remember when it was Koeman and Walsh, it was almost like with the Beatles songs, and they all used to say by Lennon and McCartney, but you know which one to write which, and you know which if it was Koeman or Walsh who'd sign the player, and you're always going to have sort of that idea between the manager wants one player, I mean, Ashley Young, I guess, would be like a prime sort of Dyche signing, whereas maybe some of the ones that are Felwell's signings, and maybe Felwell's got an idea how he wants to play them, and Deitch has got an idea how he wants to play them.
Yeah, which is interesting and probably totally different to how I saw their relationship, because I felt Felwell's always been probably good to Deitch and backed them, and I don't know, I just feel it's not trying to create any controversy anyway, but just clearly there's been some sort of a disagreement with regards to where Deitch should be playing. And then, lo and behold, 48 hours later, after saying that, he does play in that position. So it's an interesting one. Just moving on to the fullbacks, because we did touch upon it. The Blues have said, we had our fullbacks in their final third most of the game and could barely trouble them because they're not good enough. I just find this... I said earlier that I don't even think the number 10 issue is the main problem. I think Doucouré, Ndiaye and McNeil could all do a decent job in there. I think the problem that we have is with our fullbacks. They literally make no attempts to overlap or get the ball in behind. Everything is played in front of the opposition defence. It either comes down to two things for me when they get to the final third. Say Mykolenko, I'm using as an example. He's not in good form. I think we can all agree with that he will get to the final third and he'll just get blocked by a Brentford player or an opposition player. He'll either cut back inside into the middle or cut back, or he'll just float a hopeful cross in, and that's literally where we are. It's so easy to defend against. There's no, like I say, there's no overlap and no attempts to get the ball in behind, and I think the fullbacks, not the cause of the problem, but they could help in so many different ways. Ashley Young has actually been playing fairly well. He was actually my man of the match on Saturday for all of his endeavour and everything that he tried to do. We'll come on to Lindstrom, but there was one point where he brought, this in the second half, he brought the ball down the wing. Lindstrom was right there for him to put a cross in. He bypassed Lindstrom and he put the cross in himself. That's how probably desperate and eager Ashley Young was to make things happen. But I just don't think Ashley Young at that age is able to bomb back and forth down the wings and stuff like that. So where do you stand on the fullback situation? Because really, we have got a fullback in Nathan Patterson. Whether you agree his quality is good enough, but he could probably do a job in that respect.
Yeah, like you say, what does Nathan Patterson think right now? I mean that could actually won the games with Brentford down to 10 men, where you'd at least bring him on, maybe to have a bit of a go at them, because it's a bit of a different sort of fullback duty than it would be in other games. It's got to a point now with Patterson, I don't know where Nathan Patterson goes while Sean Dyche remains manager of Everton. It's a tough one for him, isn't it?
I think Coleman could probably still do it as well, though. I think Coleman can still do it to an extent. Yeah,
the things with poor Seamus, isn't it? When he comes in, he often does really well, but unfortunately, injuries are catching up with him. He comes back in and he seems to pick up a lot of knocks, which obviously is a great shame and magnificent servant to the club. Yeah, I was hoping, and I think I've seen a bit of this with Jared Branthwaite coming in. That would help Mykolenko, and I think it did, to be fair, at West Ham, you could see it. I actually thought earlier on he did all right getting up and down, but I know maybe, like I said, with Nathan Patterson, I don't know what he thinks he needs to do to get into this team at the moment, as well as Young, as you say, has done. And it wasn't just on the weekend; he's done well for several weeks now. But it's in his 40th year, so yeah.
I'm not even actually advocating to take Ashley Young out the team. I actually would take Mykolenko out the team
and put him over
and put Young there. I know that is playing a player out of position, square pegs and round holes, etc. But he's done jobs there in the past. He certainly did a good job against Leicester there. He even got an assist. I think it's what Gav Buckland talked about a couple of podcasts back. He's literally got no competition. He's not in good form. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily think he's got even the quality that we need. I think he's had decent periods during his Everton career, but I shouldn't probably really compare him to him, but he's the player that replaced Luca Dean. He's no Luca Dean. He's not even close. And this is what we've ended up with. I sound like I'm probably being really harsh, but I do think that Mykolenko needs a sustained period out of the team so he can just, I don't know, get his head straight, get fit. I don't know whether he's not fit. Just to add that, well, you're not in there because he's in that team basically every single.
He's the only natural left back really in the squad, isn't it? Like you say, Ashley Young can do a job there, and I sometimes like Young in there because he almost concentrates more on his defensive duty sometimes. I mean, sometimes you want that, but where he tries to roll back the air sometimes when he's right on the right hand side, whereas he's sort of more sort of measured left back. I don't know. I thought that Mykolenko was much improved last season. Really came on leaps and bounds. He has struggled. Obviously his form and fitness this season. I think maybe he's still sort of feeling the after effects. It was the derby, wasn't it? He went off in the Merseyside derby, and he's had a series of injuries since. I don't know. Maybe I don't see it as bad as what you see it. And for me, the problems are further forward. But yeah, game of opinions. It's an interesting take, but. Yeah, I'm hoping that Braithwaite's return can sort of help Mykolenko going forward.
Dave Mack has said, so Ian and Chris, looking up at the fixtures, the up-and-coming fixtures, how many points do you think we'll get? No confidence, no goals, might sneak one draw. I mean, the fixture list is not kind, is it? Let's face it. We'll have a quick look at it, little preview. We've got United next, then Wolves, then Liverpool, then Arsenal. I guess let's take those four in isolation. How many points in the next four do you think we're gonna get? I guess the answer.
What's the thing that you're saying in it now? What do you want to do? The next 10? I mean, things can change so quickly.
How many do you think we'll need then? How many do you think?
I think
we'll
Wolves
need?
is a massive game.
Wolves.
I think
United's almost a bit of not a gimme, but Amarin's first game at Old Trafford, they didn't even look that good, to be honest, right. Against Ipswich, so they could probably be there to be got at. You would take a draw,
of course you would.
Right now.
Of course you would, yeah.
I think I agree with you, the Wolves is absolutely massive because they seem to be on a little bit of an upturn at this moment in time, and I think we all said a couple of weeks back that they could be in a bit of a false position. To go to Fulham and win 4-1, that's a hell of a result.
Yeah, I think it was also going to be a massive game anyway, wasn't it? And because the other games that month seemingly, they are against teams who are higher in the table. So yeah, that was also going to be massive. Probably is even more so now because they've picked up and because Everton have struggled to get the wins that we all hoped that they would get. So yeah, that one's massive. But I mean, look, flipping it the other way round. Liverpool at home, Chelsea at home, Forest. They were all games Everton won last season. I'm not saying they're going to do it again, but let's just hope that, okay, they've not, this so-called easy run didn't turn out to be as easy as we all hoped. And by the same token, maybe the tough run won't be quite as tough as we all fear. And hopefully, the big hope for all of us is obviously, as the Freakins are planning, they said all along, they target in mid-December. I mean, I've never seen a new owner be able to score a goal or whatever like that, but it will be a massive weight, won't it, off to the shoulders. If that goes through, after all that the club have been through, Farhad Moshiri, spent a lot of money to start with and has delivered on the stadium, but let's be honest, it's just been absolutely ruinous in terms of the transfer strategy or lack of it, and 8 managers in 8 years. Whatever you think of Sean Dyche, he's the result of that managerial churn, which has seen 8 managers in 8 years. By all accounts, Moshiri didn't even want him. But yeah, if the Free Kings are able to come in mid-December, I mean, whatever they do in terms of the manager and whatever they do in terms of funds for the January transfer window, that's got to be a big boost. And let's just hope that be the big Christmas present for the Blues before they open all their other presents in terms of just having that sort of new direction. I mean, obviously there's plenty, as we've already discussed on the pod, been going on at Roma, 4th manager this year, and he actually got off to a defeat at Napoli yesterday. Romelu Lukaku, of all people, scoring the winner for Napoli, the former Roma man and obviously former Everton man. But let's hope that takeover can get completed, and at least that can sort of be a big boost off the field, which can hopefully give the sort of feel-good factor for the results on the field.
A lot of frustration, Chris, in the comments on the stream, as you can imagine. A bit of a debate / infighting, I don't know what you want to call it.
Between them?
Well, let's keep it clean. I know we're all frustrated. Even Paul Corrigan here says this is worse than listening to one of Dyche's interviews by all. So, see you later, Paul. Dominic Calvert-Lewin then, because I kind of wanted to touch on him. Probably caught on a bit of a frustrating figure certainly not the player that we know he can be. What do we think on Dominic? He's obviously not getting the service, but he certainly doesn't look like he's given 100%. I don't know, is that too harsh?
Yeah, I don't know about that. A lot of people got a downer on him, I thought. I think he's working hard. He's hardly getting a sniff. To be fair, he had that close range one where he sort of got turned around on the post. He hardly gets any chances. Could have Erling Haaland up there right now, and he'd be labouring. Unfortunately,
Dave Mack, just to interrupt, just on this point, says, Chris, our big hope surely has to be Brozier and Schmidt returning.
We say that. I mean, I know Joe Thomas holds a lot of stock in Brozier, as I'm told we should be calling. Oh, well, obviously he's playing for the under-21s this evening, so see how he gets on there. But I don't know. I'm not so confident in that respect, to be fair, because I point to the fact. I know obviously most of Chimiti's games last season were substitute appearances. 28 games between them last season, didn't score a goal between them. So if we're holding hope on they're going to be the cavalry. I mean, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, whatever you think of him, and obviously I just mentioned Lukaku a couple of minutes ago, he's nowhere near in his class in terms of being a prolific goal scorer. But, he's one of only 4 players to get 50 Premier League goals for Everton. He's the best they've got right now. Certainly a class apart compared to Beto. I know Beto comes on and he often sort of causes a bit of chaos last 20 minutes and maybe creates a few more chances. Yeah, I'm not too sure about... hopefully he can prove me wrong, but, Chimiti didn't do anything for Fulham last season. Got an injury with Albania in the Euros, didn't set the world alight for them. I don't know. Chimiti's learning the game.
Brozier didn't do anything for Fulham, you mean?
Sorry, Brozier. Did I say Chimiti? Brozier, yeah, sorry, Brozier Brozier.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
When we hear his name on the commentary,
maybe.
That's when we can start saying his name properly.
Jagielka. Whatever we're going to call him. Yeah, I know he did okay for Southampton previously on loan there. I'm not too sure in terms of being the long-term solution for Everton. Certainly, at this moment in time, neither of them have got a pedigree to match to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, probably not even to Beto. I know they keep mentioning maybe out of hope and desperation. I'm not too sure over those two. I mean, I think Chimiti could be a real sort of special player in time. We saw a few glimpses of that towards the end of last season, a few nice touches, but he's still very much learning the game in England. And Brozier, I know there's a lot of potential there, and they've been tracking him for a long time. I think Lampard wanted him as well. Yeah, he needs to go and prove it.
Were you surprised that he brought Beto on? Was it like 2 up top? Because that's not worked in the past. I mean, I wasn't surprised because I thought it was probably the only sub that he could have made. Certainly with Brentford being down to 10 men. Because it's not like we would have been really overrun in the midfield. Although I did find that we were getting stretched quite a bit in the second half when they were on the break, which was crazy considering they had 10 men. Yeah,
like you say, it's probably the most positive thing they could do, but unfortunately, with every time they sort of play together now, I mean, we used to think, well, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Beto, that was against Luton last season. They were used to playing, against 2 big men up front to come out of the Championship. Maybe it was the wrong sort of time to do it, but the more you sort of see them together, the more they don't seem to be an effective partnership in terms of actually combining as a duo as such. As I mean, I know a lot of teams don't play with 2 up top these days, whereas certainly when you and I were growing up, it was the sort of the go-to formation. Most teams did have a strike partnership as such. I mean, it'd be usually a big man, small man, but you say it was something that he probably felt he needed to do, but yeah, it wasn't very cohesive the way they were sort of playing together. But I think it's a bit of a downer on Dom. I stick by it. I think he, like a lot of them, he is struggling right now, but he's sort of, it's the tactics they're playing, and he does get very few chances compared to a lot of strikers. In terms of people saying that his attitude, I think that's a bit unfair. But this is somebody who's put his body on the line for Everton a lot of the times. He's created a lot of the big moments, those huge moments in recent times. So those few good memories that we do have from these seasons of strife, the Crystal Palace winner, the goal in the derby last season. I think that people can be short memories in terms of that with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and sort of got agendas think, oh yeah, okay, because he's approaching the last 6 months of his contract, he doesn't care, or he's not putting 100% in. I think that's a bit unfair in terms of. I think it's often a thankless task for up and leading the line on his own, or with Beto.
2 responses then to what you've just kind of said there, Chris. Dave Mack, who posed the original question, I think, wasn't it? He said, Chris, you're killing all hope, laughing face, especially if you're saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin is our best option. And Mark the Spark, I must be on the wrong site. Praise for Dyche and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Is this a red site?
I don't think anyone's given Dyche any praise today.
No, I don't disagree. I agree with that. I don't think there's been any praise for Sean Dyche on this podcast whatsoever. We did get a question prior to the start of the podcast, and it's from Twitter, Mark1_1878, and it's a really good, interesting question, because I wasn't even going to add it to the agenda, but I did think of it at the time. I was a bit frustrated. So the question is, why is Dyche persisting in picking Decore in a deeper central midfield role when he is clearly not suited technically? His role is behind the striker, in and around the box. He's not a passer, and it's disrupting our entire game. I mean, I was a little bit frustrated that Mangala wasn't in the starting lineup on Saturday, because I completely agree with what Mark said in that question. Decore is not suited to a deeper lying midfield role, and I do think he is better suited as the number 10. Whether his qualities are better than McNeil or Ndiaye, that's a different subject. But Mangala and Guy should be cemented as the number 2, the 2 holding midfielders. Sorry, for me at this moment in time.
I had Mangala and Guy as my. Obviously we do our team selector beforehand, and it's the team who we want to say. We're not trying to guess who Dyche is going to pick. We're picking our choices, and I had Mangala and Guy in there. But again, actually going back to what we're saying about where Iliman Ndiaye's played most of his career, I know under Dyche, Decore has mostly been a more advanced of the central trio, as number 10, if we want to call it that. But over his career as a whole, I know he's obviously a lot more box to box, and he's all about running. He is that deeper central midfielder, certainly in terms of his starting position. I actually imagine that what's left of his Everton career, he probably would maybe get more opportunities in that deeper role. But what I would say, I would agree with what you said there, is I would have started with Mangala. I wonder whether he did that because Brentford a big physical side, and maybe he thought Decore would be able to mix it a bit more. But yeah, I'd have started with Mangala, and certainly, I mean, I know he came on in the end in the second half, but you'd have hoped that he might have been able to sort of pick a pass a bit more, and maybe sort of a bit more expansive from that deeper position. So I would have started with Mangala, but Decore, whatever you think about him, has actually spent most of his career in that deeper role, albeit not under Dyche.
Incident from the game then, Chris, the red card, which didn't really prove, to have any bearing on the game. Christian Norgard was sent off for a challenge on Jordan Pickford, and VAR, I mean, the referee, I don't even know whether he gave a foul, to be honest, or what, but VAR intervened, and Chris Kavanagh eventually agreed that it was a red card. Very difficult, really, to see where I was sat. Yeah. It did look like he did lunge in, and to me it looked like in that moment he looked like he lunged in but kind of missed Pickford, so I thought, is it just serious foul play where he hasn't actually connected, but the intent has been there? Obviously, you look back at the pictures and the videos, he does connect with Pickford. So was it a red card for you?
It's a moot point now, isn't it?
No, I know,
and in the end, I wonder Sean Dyche, I'll flip it around actually, play a bit devil's advocate. I wonder Sean Dyche wishes he hadn't gone, because he'd be probably getting a bit less stick now if Brentford hadn't been reduced to 10 men. I know, they did look pretty damaged. I know I spoke to Thomas Frank afterwards, and he was saying about how he pulled out and he didn't mean it, and I know he didn't go out. I don't think he certainly went to do Pickford. There was no malice there, but given that the way, if you see the way he connected with him, it could have actually been potentially dangerous. It's just interesting now. They, like I said, with VAR, the referee doesn't see it, but it's seen as like a clear and obvious. But I'd have been very unhappy if we'd have been missing Jordan Pickford for the rest of the season because he had his leg broken from that. So yeah, I can see in terms of, I know that it wasn't a malicious challenge. But if you're going to go in and catch a goalkeeper like that, well, maybe you're going to have to face the consequences. I know he was trying to pull out, but he did. It looks pretty damning when you do see the replays.
We'll finish off in a minute then, but just before we do, Chris, just briefly on Lindstrom. I mean, we've been going through the players and the topics today, but it's all relevant talking points. I was happy that he was picked. I felt like he needed a run of games consistently in the league to see what he can do. I think is that his third game in a row now that he's played. So, yeah. Obviously, it's still early days. We've only got him on loan. We haven't paid the 22 or 23 million pound asking price. What Napoli, have valued him at. He clearly hasn't hit the ground running for whatever reason, whether it's fitness, whether he's adapting to the game, whether that is because he's adapting to Sean Dyche's style of play. But yeah, struggling, I guess, is probably that he's not pulling up any trees, is he, or anything like that?
I've actually felt that he was sort of adapting more to the system now, and he looked like more integrated. But whether that's necessarily a good or bad thing, have they sort of beaten all the flair out of him now, and just become another sort of workman up and down? There was one moment actually, to be fair, when he actually did a really sort of timely tackle. McNeil had lost it near the halfway line, and it was potentially actually a really sort of dangerous break for Brentford. And Lindstrom got a timely challenge in, so he's actually learning. But yeah, these
the Dyche way, is it?
Yeah, like I think you mentioned earlier, Ashley Young putting that cross in. You want to be seeing more of that from him, don't you? Want to see, he's learning, he's adapting to the English pace of the game, but he's a very quick player in himself. And you want to see him more sort of dribbling, getting at players, taking players on, getting the crosses in. That's what you want from all your wingers, and not been enough of that. We know he can strike a dead ball. I was fortunate enough to be his debut at Preston back in August. Took a lovely free kick there, curled that one in, and then there was one at Southampton earlier this month when Ramsdale made the great save and denied him. So we know he's a danger from those dead ball situations as well. But yeah, we want to be seeing more. In terms of his attributes as a sort of a wide man who can sort of get attackers, you see what Ndai's doing down the other flank. I know you can't replicate that; he's a one-off. But yeah, you do want to be seeing more of him in terms of that final third.
Does he just need? Do you think he needs the space in front of him? Because he's obviously not getting that space. As soon as he gets the ball, he's being closed down by opposition defenders, isn't he? And for all his what looks like his skillful entities of his game and a little bit of pace, he seems to struggle to take players on as well.
Yeah, it was weird because when he was playing the Bundesliga, he seems to have pretty decent sort of attacking stats, but then if he failed to score a single goal for Napoli last season, so he's really rebuilding his career and his reputation after a really sort of tough year in Italy. Just like seeing have a bit more sort of self-confidence in that respect, and get at players. And we know he can sort of pick a pass as well at times. Maybe he just needs to sort of get off the mark. Obviously, there was that League Cup outing that he had early on against Southampton. He probably should have scored a couple of goals that night, and if maybe he'd have sort of hit the ground running if he'd got one then. But yeah, hopefully he's learning quickly. But I mean, he needs to with these games going up. That's the problem is him and Jack Harrison. Neither of them sort of, like you say, in terms of pulling up trees. I think that Harrison's put a real shift in when he's been there at times. But again, you want to see more of him after he had that great goal just after he signed against Bournemouth. And you think, have a bit of this. But it's just not been enough from either of them just yet. And it's probably why they've both been in and out and sort of both vying for the shirt.
Without adding too much to or overcomplicating the number 10 debate, is he being played out of position? Is the right side his position for you? Do you think he could do a job as a number 10?
I've not seen him as a 10. I don't know. He has played there, for Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, I've just heard a lot of people say that I don't think out wide on the wing is his natural position, which I don't necessarily agree with. He does look like a winger style player, but I have seen a number of people saying he should be playing as the number 10 as well. So
we have him and McNeil and Decore all as number 10.
It's like under Koeman when we bought all those number 10s.
Dear. That's where I've come full circle.
Obviously, a lot of frustration, Chris. We'll finish off now, but a lot of frustration, a lot of fans, not just on this stream, you see it all over, calling for Dyche to go. We know the complications around that. Who is there to sack him if the you know, if people or the club were to sack him. But there has been a bit of a vote of confidence today. I think Sky Sports have reported that Dyche remains to have the full backing of Farhad Moshiri and the board of directors. I mean, take that with a pinch of salt, because Farhad Moshiri is an absent owner. Yeah. Does he even really care about what is happening right now? He knows the club's going to be sold within the next couple of weeks. I think what I'm saying is this vote of confidence like a futile thing, because you know, new owners are going to come in and they might want to keep Dyche, or they might want to do their own thing anyway?
I don't know if it is a vote of confidence. That's something that Sky Sports have reported. I know obviously he's not here to speak for himself, but Joe Thomas was asked about this, and I think the club's position is the same as it's always been. So I don't think of that as a vote of confidence as such. Nobody from the club has actually come out today and said, on the record,
yeah,
this is
absolutely. What like say, this is Sky, isn't it?
We want to do that. So I think be careful in that respect. I think it's like I said before, and we've been through this many times. I don't think that there's going to be any moves made on this score until after the takeover is complete. I'm told that Mr. Moshiri, wherever he is in the world, he still watches all the games, and that's what I was told a few weeks ago.
He's
I don't know
got
if that's
one of
changed.
Special owner streams,
his owner stream. Yeah, he doesn't need the Fire Stick. He's all right in that respect. So I don't know. Yeah, that would be the thing for all that. You know, some people are calling for Dyche's head on a stick at the moment, and ours too. If we don't call for that ourselves, I don't know really I don't see anything happening until a takeover is completed.
Two final comments to finish off. Gavin Cunningham says Moshiri doesn't want to pay him off. A vote of confidence is nonsense. And one for you, Chris, bit of research. The Blues have said, Ian, please, 3 pleases.
Wow.
Ask Chris to research who was the biggest underperforming striker in Europe last season. Doesn't even have to be on the stream. So a bit of homework for you for the next pod.
Okay. Is that going to be like Dominic Calvert-Lewin then? Is it?
I mean, read between the lines. I'd probably say the Blues might have done the research beforehand, and he's obviously... he's giving you a bit of homework, put it that way.
Better.
Yeah, well, it would be, surely it would be better, but saying that is
1 and 2
minutes to go.
I don't know.
Ratio might actually be better than Calvert-Lewin's, mightn't it? Okay, we will finish off. Any final thoughts, Chris? Or
no, the only thing I would say is on a brighter note. We'll finish on a brighter note.
Sorry, just to interrupt. The Blues have just said spoiler alert. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Save me all that homework. Yeah. So everyone's a winner. Yeah. Like after all this time whinging, I'm going to finish on a brighter note, and can't say who though, but. As you know, we've got another guest booked in for the Goodison Park My Home series, and he's a really bubbly character. So hopefully that one will go down well, and we'll keep that one going because we're really enjoying that series and all those memories of better Goodison times. Hopefully there'll be a few more before the end of the season, but yeah, look out for that one. Another guest for Goodison Park My Home. Obviously, it won't be published until later, but hopefully we've got him coming in this week.
Yeah, filming to take place Wednesday morning.
Hopefully, yeah.
Just for everyone else on the stream or everyone else listening as well, just so you know that I'm going to be back on Wednesday with Tony Scott for the final word on Brentford, and we'll also look ahead to the Manchester United game. Me and Chris, and I think it's going to be Gav, are going to be here Friday as well. So that will be a Manchester United preview. So we'll try to look forward to that one, Chris.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Probably we'll finish off there. Please remember to give us a like and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Don't let Everton ruin it. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Chris Beesley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.